The doctor's hands were on her throat before anyone could scream, not choking, checking her pulse. "This woman's heart is failing," he said, his voice cutting through the church like a blade. "And you people are killing her." Eliza's father lunged forward, but the mountain man didn't flinch. "She's mine now. Anyone disagrees, you can follow us up that mountain and see what happens." The rain poured harder. Nobody moved. He lifted her like she weighed nothing and carried her into the storm. Before we begin Eliza's journey from that rain-soaked church to freedom, please hit that subscribe button and stay with us until the very end of this story. Drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now let's step back to where it all started. The church smelled like wet wood and old shame. Eliza May Holloway stood at the altar in a dress 2 sizes too small, the seams cutting into her sides. The fabric was yellow, not white, never white for a girl like her, and every person in that church stared at her like she was something diseased. Rain hammered the roof. Thunder shook the walls. She was 18 years old, and this was the 3rd time her father had tried to sell her. The first time she'd been 16. A cattle rancher from Silver Creek, 52 years old, who'd looked at her the way men looked at horses. She'd run. Her father found her hiding in the church basement and broke 2 of her fingers. The second time she'd been 17. A widower with 6 children who needed a mother and a maid, not a wife. She'd refused to speak during the ceremony. The man changed his mind, said she was simple in the head. Her father locked her in the cellar for 3 days. This time she didn't run, didn't refuse, just stood there while Willard Holloway, 43 years old, with hands like shovels and breath like rot, leered at her from 2 feet away. "Dearly beloved," Reverend Michaels began. Eliza's father sat in the front pew, arms crossed, face red with satisfaction. Beside him, her mother stared at her lap. Hadn't looked at Eliza once. Not this morning, when she'd forced her into the yellow dress. Not yesterday, when she'd heard Eliza crying through the walls. The door was open. Just a crack. Rain pooling on the threshold. Eliza looked at it and thought, I could die out there, and it would still be better than this. "If anyone here has objections to this union," Reverend Michaels continued, "speak now, or—" The door exploded inward. A man stepped through, tall, broad-shouldered, soaked to the bone. His coat dripped mud across the floor. His boots left tracks. He didn't remove his hat, didn't apologize. He walked straight up the aisle like God himself had sent him. "I object," he said. The silence was absolute. Reverend Michaels blinked. "Sir, I don't believe she—" "Enoch Blackthorne. I was the town doctor before you got here, Reverend, so you wouldn't know me." His voice was rough, unused. "Doesn't matter. I'm objecting." Willard stepped forward, puffing up. "Now you hold on just a minute. Sit down." Willard sat. Enoch turned to Eliza. His eyes were gray, storm gray, wolf gray. "You, Eliza Holloway?" She nodded. Her voice had left her. "You want to marry this man?" She looked at Willard. At his thin, wet smile. At the way his fingers twitched toward her wrist. "I—" The word stuck. "I don't—" Simple question. Yes or no? "No." Louder. "No." Stronger this time. "Good." Enoch pulled a folded paper from his coat and shoved it at Reverend Michaels. "That's a marriage license, signed by Judge Winters in Silver Creek 2 days ago. Miss Holloway and I were married by proxy, legal and binding." The church erupted. Her father shot to his feet, face purple. "That's a goddamn lie." "It's a legal document, Raymond, with a judge's seal." Enoch didn't even look at him. "Your daughter's married, to me, which makes this ceremony fraud." He turned to Willard. "You paid him $300 and a horse for her. Here's your refund." He pulled a leather pouch from his belt and hurled it at Willard's feet. Coins scattered across the floor like teeth. Count it if you don't trust me, but we're leaving. Like hell you are. Her father moved fast for a drunk, grabbed Eliza's arm, yanked her backward. She's my daughter, and she'll do what I— Enoch hit him. Not a slap. A real punch, closed fist right to the jaw. Raymond Holloway dropped like a stone. The church gasped. Women shrieked. Men stood up, unsure whether to intervene. Enoch looked down at Raymond, who was groaning on the floor, bleeding from the mouth. "You touch her again," he said quietly. "I'll do worse than that." He turned to Eliza. "Can you walk?" She stared at her father, at the blood on his lip, at the first time in her life she'd seen him on the ground instead of standing over her. "Yes," she whispered. "Then let's go." He walked toward the door. Didn't take her hand, didn't drag her, just walked and gave her the choice to follow. Eliza looked at her mother, at the woman who'd birthed her and fed her and never once stood between her and her father's fists. Her mother still wouldn't meet her eyes. Eliza followed Enoch into the rain. There was a horse waiting, big gray patient as stone. Enoch swung into the saddle, then reached down. "Give me your hand." She stared at his palm. Scarred, calloused, steady. "I won't hurt you," he said. "I'm just going to pull you up." She took his hand. He lifted her onto the saddle in front of him, easy, like she weighed nothing. She tensed, waiting for his arms to cage her in, for his breath to go hot against her neck. But he just clicked his tongue, and the horse started walking. "Hold the saddle horn," he said. "Trail gets rough." They rode in silence. The rain turned the road to mud, soaked through her dress, plastered her hair to her skull. Eliza shook so hard her teeth clattered. After a mile she found her voice. Why what? Why did you do that?" "Because you said no." "That's not a reason." "It's the only one that matters." She twisted to look at him. Water ran down his face, dripped from his beard. He didn't look angry, didn't look triumphant, just looked tired. "You don't know me," she said. "No, but I knew your father." His jaw tightened. "Treated him 5 years ago. Broken nose from a bar fight. He tried to pay me with a jar of preserves and a story about how expensive it was to feed a useless daughter." A pause. "That was you." She nodded. "Figured." He was quiet for a moment. "When Luther James rode up to my cabin 3 days ago and told me Raymond was marrying you off to Willard Holloway, I had a choice. Let it happen or stop it." "So you bought a fake marriage license?" "It's not fake. Judge Winters signed it. It's legal." He glanced down at her. "But it doesn't mean anything unless you want it to. Soon as we get to the cabin, I'll file for annulment if that's what you want. Your choice." "Why would you do that?" "Because you deserve a choice." Eliza tested that for lies, found none, but men were good at lying when you wanted to believe them. "Where are we going?" "My cabin, 15 miles north up in the mountains." "You live alone." "Mostly." "Why'd you leave town?" His face closed off. "Long story." She didn't push. They climbed higher, the trail narrowing, trees closing in. The rain turned to mist. Her shivering got worse, deep bone-rattling cold. "Almost there," Enoch said. Then through the trees a cabin. Small but solid stone foundation, smoke trailing from the chimney. A porch. A shed. A small barn. It looked like a place where someone could breathe. Enoch dismounted and reached for her. She let him lift her down. Her legs buckled immediately. He caught her, steadied her. "Easy. You're all right." "I'm fine." "You're freezing and exhausted." He guided her toward the cabin. "Inside, now." The door opened to warmth. Fire in the hearth shelves lined with books and jars, a narrow bed in the corner. Everything clean, organized, quiet. "Sit by the fire," he said. She sat, watched him stoke the flames, fill a kettle, pull blankets from a chest. His movements were efficient, practiced. "You said you were a doctor." "I was." "What happened?" He set the kettle on the stove. Didn't look at her. I failed someone. Someone who mattered. His voice went flat. Her name was Sarah. She was 10 years old. Fever took her in 2 days and I couldn't stop it. A pause. Her mother was the school teacher. Her father ran the general store. Good people. After Sarah died, they couldn't look at me without seeing her. He turned to face Eliza. So I left. The kettle began to whistle. I'm sorry, Eliza said. Don't be. I am. He poured the tea something dark and bitter smelling. Drink. It'll help with the pain. I'm not in pain. He looked at her. At the bruises on her wrists, purple and fresh. At the way she held her ribs. At the split skin on her knuckles. Yes, you are. She took the cup. Drank. It tasted like hell, but warmed her from the inside. Enoch knelt in front of her chair. I need to check for injuries. I'm going to touch you, just your hands, your wrists, maybe your ribs. If you want me to stop, say stop. Understood? She nodded. He started with her hands. Turned them over gently, examining the bruises, the broken skin. His touch was professional. Impersonal. Not invasive. Your father did this? Yes. He moved to her wrists, pressed lightly on the dark marks. These are from today. He dragged me to the church. Enoch's jaw clenched, but his hands stayed gentle. Anywhere else hurt? She nodded toward her ribs. May I? She nodded. He pressed carefully through the fabric of her dress, feeling for breaks. She winced. Bruised, not broken, he said. You're lucky. Lucky. The word tasted like ash. Yeah, because you're here now. He stood cross to the shelves, started pulling down jars. I'm making you a salve for the bruises, and more tea willow bark for the pain. Why are you helping me? He paused. Because no one else did. The salve smelled like pine and something sharper, mint maybe. When he rubbed it into her wrists, the pain dulled to an ache. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet. He returned the jars to the shelf. You haven't decided if you're staying. Do I have to decide tonight? No. She looked at the fire, at the way the flames danced and threw shadows. Then I'll stay, for now. All right. He pulled a bedroll from the chest. You take the bed. I'll sleep on the floor. I can't. You can and you will. His tone left no room for argument. I've slept on worse. She was too tired to fight. Climbed into the bed, still wearing the damp yellow dress because she had nothing else. Enoch draped a quilt over her, tucked it around her shoulders without crowding her. Sleep, he said. We'll figure out tomorrow when it comes. Enoch. Yeah. That marriage license. Is it real? He looked at her for a long moment. Yes. So we're married. On paper. Doesn't mean anything beyond that unless you want it to. She thought about that, about being someone's wife without being someone's property. Okay, she said. He moved back to the fire, unrolled his bedding. Eliza watched him through half-closed eyes, the way he moved carefully contained, like he was always aware of the space he took up. Outside, the rain stopped. The fire crackled. An owl called. And Eliza May Holloway, Eliza May Blackthorne, fell asleep without fear. She woke to screaming, her own screaming. Hands on her shoulders, she thrashed, clawed, fought. Eliza! Eliza, stop! It's me, you're safe! Enoch's voice cut through the panic. She opened her eyes. He was kneeling beside the bed, hands raised, not touching her anymore. You're safe, he said again. You were dreaming. She was drenched in sweat, shaking her heart, trying to punch through her ribs. In the dream, she'd been back in the cellar, in the dark, and her father had been coming down the stairs. I'm sorry, she gasped. Don't apologize. He stood slowly, backed toward the fire. I'm going to make tea. You want some? She nodded. He busied himself with the kettle while she sat up, pulled the quilt around her shoulders. The cabin was still dark, just the fire, and a single candle burning on the table. "What time is it?" she asked. "Few hours before dawn." "You should sleep." "I will." He brought her the tea, set it on the small table beside the bed without getting too close. "Nightmares." "Yes." "They'll get better. Takes time." "You sound like you know." "I do." He returned to his bedroll, sat down. "Had them for 2 years after the war. Still get them sometimes." "What helps? Knowing you're not in danger anymore." He looked at her across the fire. "You're not Eliza. Your father can't reach you here." "He'll come looking. Let him try." There was something cold in his voice, something that said he'd welcome the visit. Eliza sipped the tea, let the warmth settle her nerves. "Tell me about the war." "Why?" "Because I want to stop thinking about Sellers." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "I was a field surgeon, spent 3 years patching up men who should have died, watching men die who shouldn't have. Learned to work fast, work tired, work scared." He stared into the fire. "Luther James saved my life twice. Once, when I took a bullet in the shoulder once, when I tried to save a boy who was already gone and nearly got myself killed doing it. He dragged me out of that tent and told me if I died trying to save the dead, he'd kill me himself." "He sounds like a good friend." "The best." Enoch's expression softened slightly. "He's the one who told me about you. Rode 15 miles in the rain to tell me what your father was doing. Asked if I could help. And you said yes. I said I'd think about it. Then I thought about it for about 30 seconds and rode to Silver Creek to get that license." "Why?" He looked at her, really looked. "Because Luther said you reminded him of his sister, and because I knew what it felt like to be trapped." She wanted to ask more about his sister, about being trapped, but exhaustion was pulling at her again. "Go back to sleep," Enoch said. "I'll keep the fire going." "You don't have to." "I know, but I will." She lay back down. This time, when she closed her eyes, she didn't dream. Morning came with the smell of coffee and bacon. Eliza sat up slowly. Her body ached, but the sharp edge of pain had dulled. Enoch was at the stove, his back to her. "Morning," he said without turning. "Hungry." Her stomach answered. He brought her a plate bacon, eggs, cornbread. More food than she'd seen in weeks. She ate slowly, carefully, waiting for him to demand something in return. He didn't. Just sat at the table, carving something from a piece of wood. "What are you making?" she asked. "Spoon. Mine broke." "You're good with your hands." "I'm a surgeon. Was a surgeon. Precision comes with the territory." He glanced up. "You have questions. Ask them." "How did you afford the marriage license?" "Judge Winters owed me a favor. I delivered his grandson when the midwife couldn't get there fast enough. He signed the papers, no questions. And if my father challenges it, it's legal. Filed with the county. He can't do anything." Enoch set down the carving. "But he will try. Men like him don't let go easy." A chill ran through her. "What if he comes here? Then I'll deal with it. However I need to." The certainty in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it felt like safety. She finished eating, carried her plate to the wash basin, started cleaning it, something to do with her hands. "You don't have to do that," Enoch said. "I want to help." "Then help. But not because you owe me, because you want to." She tested that. Decided it was true. What else needs doing? Garden's overgrown. Chickens need feeding. Firewood needs splitting. He stood. "But you should rest today. You're still healing." "I've rested enough. Eliza. I need to move, need to do something." She turned to face him. "Please." He studied her, then nodded. "All right. I'll show you the chickens." The work was simple, peaceful. Scatter feed, collect eggs, Haul water. Her body protested, muscles unused to this kind of labor, but her mind quieted. For the first time in years, she wasn't waiting for a blow, wasn't bracing for cruelty. She was just working. Around midday, a woman appeared at the edge of the clearing. She moved like smoke through the trees, silent, fluid. Long black hair, buckskin dress, a knife at her belt. She raised one hand in greeting. "Peace," she said. Her voice was low-accented. "I'm Mari Wild Elk." Eliza froze. You're Enoch's wife." Mari's eyes were dark, assessing, not unkind. "Luther James told my father. I came to see if you needed anything." "I'm fine." Mari stepped closer. "No, you're not." She looked at Eliza's wrists, at the fading bruises. "You're scared, hurt, trying to decide if you can trust him." "Can I?" "Yes." No hesitation. "Enoch Blackthorne is a good man, stubborn, lonely. Carries too much guilt, but good." She pulled a small bundle from her pack. "Dried venison, herbs for healing. My father sends them." "Why?" "Because Enoch helped our people when the town wouldn't. When sickness came to our village, he rode through a blizzard to bring medicine. Stayed 3 days treating everyone." Mari's expression softened. "My little brother lived because of him. We don't forget debts like that." The cabin door opened. Enoch stepped out, saw Mari, and something like relief crossed his face. "Mari, wasn't expecting you." "Luther told us you rescued a woman from the town." She nodded at Eliza. "I had to see for myself." "She's not rescued. She's free." He crossed to them. "Eliza, this is Mari Wild Elk. Her father is the medicine man for the Shoshone village in the valley. Mari's been teaching me about local plants." "I also make sure he doesn't die alone in this cabin," Mari said dryly. "Someone has to." Enoch almost smiled. Appreciated. Mari turned back to Eliza. "You need anything at all, you come find me. My village is 6 miles west near the river. You'll be welcome." She touched Eliza's shoulder lightly. "And Eliza, you're stronger than you think. You'll see." Then she was gone, disappearing into the trees as silently as she'd arrived. Eliza stared after her. "Does she always do that?" "Yes, you get used to it." "I'm not sure I will." Enoch's lips twitched. "Give it time." The days developed a rhythm. Wake, work, eat, sleep. Simple things, safe things. Enoch taught her to split firewood, how to read the grain, where to strike. Her hands blistered, then calloused. She learned to collect herbs to identify which plants were medicine and which were poison. Learned to move through the forest without crashing through it. And slowly, so slowly, she almost didn't notice the fear began to loosen its grip. On the 5th day, she asked Enoch to teach her to carve. He looked surprised. "Why?" "Because I want to make something that's mine." He handed her a small piece of wood and a knife, showed her how to hold it, how to cut with the grain. "Slow," he said. "Don't force it." She tried. The knife slipped, bit into her thumb. Blood welled. Enoch was already moving. "Let me see." She held out her hand. He examined the cut, shallow, clean, and wrapped it in a strip of cloth. His touch was gentle, impersonal. "You'll live," he said. "I know." She picked up the knife again. "Show me the right way." He did. Sat beside her, not too close, and guided her through the motions. His hands covered hers briefly, adjusting her grip, then pulled away. They carved in silence. Wood shavings curled away, fell to the floor like snow. And for the first time since the church, since the storm, since everything, Eliza felt something like peace. But peace never lasted. On the 7th day, horses came up the trail. Eliza was hanging laundry when she heard them, the sound of hooves on stone, men's voices carrying through the trees. Her blood turned to ice. "Enoch!" He was out of the cabin in seconds, rifle in hand. "Get inside." "But now!" She ran. He followed, locked the door, moved to the window. 3 riders emerged from the trees. At the front, her father. Behind him, Willard Holloway and a man in a marshal's badge. Enoch's jaw tightened. "Stay away from the windows. They came for me. They came for trouble." He checked his rifle. "They're going to get it." The riders stopped 20 feet from the cabin. Her father dismounted, swagger in every step. "Blackthorn," he shouted. "Send out my daughter." Enoch opened the door, stepped onto the porch, rifle resting in the crook of his arm. "She's not your daughter. She's my wife." "That's horseshit and you know it. It's legal. Judge Winters signed the documents. You want to challenge it? Take it up with him." The marshal, a thin man with a nervous face, cleared his throat. "Mr. Blackthorn, I'm Marshal Davis. Mr. Holloway here has filed a complaint. Says you abducted his daughter against her will." "She wasn't abducted. She married me." "Under duress, I'd wager." Her father's face was purple with rage. "You threatened me in front of the whole town." "I punched you," Enoch corrected. "Because you grabbed your daughter hard enough to bruise her. Again." "She's my property. She's a person. She's my—" "Eliza," Willard called out, his voice oily. "Eliza, honey, come on out. We'll sort this out civilized-like." Behind the door, Eliza's hands shook. Every instinct screamed at her to hide, to stay silent. But then she thought, no, not anymore. She opened the door, stepped onto the porch beside Enoch. "I'm not going back," she said. Her voice was steady, stronger than she'd ever heard it. Her father's face twisted. "Eliza May, you get down here right now." "No. I'm your father. You sold me. Twice. The first time I ran, you broke my fingers. The second time I refused, you locked me in the cellar for 3 days." Her voice was shaking now, but not with fear, with rage. "You're not my father. You're the man who made me afraid to exist." "Why, you ungrateful little—" "She's done talking to you." Enoch's voice cut across the clearing like a blade. "Marshal, you've seen her. She's here of her own free will. She's my legal wife. The documents are on file in Silver Creek. If they want to challenge that, they can do it in court." Marshal Davis shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Holloway, it does appear." "I paid good money for her," Willard sputtered. "Then you paid for nothing." Enoch raised his rifle slightly, not aiming, just adjusting. "I refunded you. We're square. Now get off my property." "This ain't over," her father snarled. "Yes, it is." Enoch's voice went cold. "You come back here, Raymond, and it won't be my fists you have to worry about. Understood?" Her father stared at him, at the rifle, at Eliza standing tall on the porch. Then he spat, remounted, and wheeled his horse around. Willard and the marshal followed. They watched them disappear into the trees. Eliza's legs gave out. Enoch caught her, eased her down to sit on the porch steps. "You did good." "I can't stop shaking." "That's normal. You just stood up to the man who terrorized you your whole life." He sat beside her, not touching, just close. "You were brave." "I don't feel brave." "Bravery isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing it anyway." He looked at her. "You did that today." She leaned against the porch post, let her head fall back. "Will they come back?" "Maybe, probably not." He paused. "But if they do, we'll handle it." We. He stood, offered his hand. "Come on, let's get you inside." She took his hand, let him pull her to her feet, and realized, this is what safety feels like. That night after dinner, they sat by the fire. Enoch carved. Eliza watched the flames. "What happens now?" she asked. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know." She pulled the quilt tighter around her shoulders. "I've never had a choice before." "You do now." She thought about that. About the cabin, the mountains, the man who'd given her freedom without asking for anything in return. "Can I stay?" she asked. "Really stay. Not just hiding, but building something." Enoch looked at her. "Yes. Even though you don't love me? Even though." He set down his carving. "Love's not something you can force, but respect is, trust is, safety is. We can build those, see where they lead. And if they don't lead to love, then we'll have respect, trust, and safety. That's more than most marriages have." She tested that for truth, found it solid. "Okay," she said. "Then I'll stay." "Good." He picked up his carving again. "Tomorrow, I'll teach you to shoot. Day after, we'll work on the garden. Mari wants to show you how to set snares." "Why?" "Because you need to know how to survive. Not just survive with me. Survive on your own." He looked at her. "You're not my prisoner, Eliza. You're my partner. Or you will be if you want. Partner, not property." The word settled into her chest like a warm coal. "I want that," she said softly. "Then that's what we'll build." Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. The first drops of rain began to fall. But inside by the fire, Eliza May Blackthorne felt something she'd never felt before. Hope. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the cabin, unseen, unknown but coming, a shadow stirred. Because men like her father never let go easily. And this story was far from over. The shadow came 3 nights later. Eliza woke to silence the wrong kind. The kind that meant something was holding its breath. She lay still, listening. Enoch's breathing from across the room had stopped. "Don't move," he whispered. "Someone's outside." Her heart slammed against her ribs. "How many?" "Don't know yet." The sound of him reaching for his rifle. "Stay in bed. Stay quiet." Footsteps on the porch. Slow, deliberate. Then a voice slurred with whiskey. "I know you're in there, girl." Her father. Enoch was on his feet, moving to the window. "He's alone. Drunk." A pause. "Stupid." "What's he doing?" "Trying the door." The latch rattled. Once, twice. Then her father's fist pounded the wood. "Eliza May. You come out here right now or I'll burn this whole goddamn place down." Enoch's jaw tightened. He crossed to the door, unlocked it, stepped out onto the porch. Eliza heard his voice, cold and level. "You're trespassing, Raymond." "That's my daughter in there. That's my wife. And you're drunk. Go home." "Not without her." Her father's voice rose sloppy with rage. "You think you can steal her from me? Think you can make a fool of me in front of the whole town? You made a fool of yourself. I just gave you an audience." The sound of her father lunging. A scuffle. Something hit the porch railing hard. Eliza threw off the blanket, grabbed the iron poker from beside the fireplace. Her hands shook, but her feet moved out of bed across the room to the door. She opened it. Her father was on his knees. Enoch's hand twisted in his collar, his face pressed against the porch boards. Blood ran from his nose. "I told you not to come back," Enoch said quietly. "Let him go." Both men turned. Her father's eyes went wide when he saw her poker-raised feet, planted hair wild around her face. "Eliza," he started. "No." The word came out steady, strong. "You don't get to say my name anymore. You don't get to come here. You don't get anything from me ever again. I'm your father. You're a drunk who sold his daughter like livestock." She took a step forward. "Twice. And when I wouldn't go quietly, you broke my bones and locked me in the dark." Another step. "I was 12 the first time you hit me. Do you remember I spilled your coffee and you backhanded me so hard I couldn't hear right for a week?" Her father's face twisted. "You always were too sensitive. I was a child." Her voice cracked. I was your child, and you made me afraid of my own shadow. Made me think I deserved it. That I was worthless. The poker trembled in her hands. But I'm not. I'm not worthless, and I'm not yours. Eliza, get off this mountain. If you come back, I won't just stand here holding a poker. I'll use it. She met his eyes. Do you understand me? For the first time in her life, she saw fear in his face. Enoch released him. Her father scrambled backward, nearly fell down the porch steps, caught himself on the railing. You'll regret this, he spat. Both of you. I doubt it, Enoch said. Now get out before I change my mind about letting you walk away. Her father backed toward his horse, mounted clumsily. This ain't over. Yes, Eliza said. It is. He rode into the darkness, weaving in the saddle. Enoch waited until the hoofbeats faded, then turned to Eliza. You all right? No. The poker clattered to the porch. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. But I will be. That was brave, what you said to him. That was terrifying. Same thing. He picked up the poker, examined it. You really would have used this, wouldn't you? Yes. He looked at her, really looked. Something shifted in his expression. Good. You're learning. Learning what? How to fight back. She couldn't sleep after that. Sat by the fire wrapped in blankets while Enoch kept watch at the window rifle across his knees. He'll tell people, Eliza said finally. In town. He'll say you're holding me prisoner, that I'm not here willingly. Let him talk. They'll believe him. Some will, some won't. Enoch glanced at her. Does it matter? I don't know. She pulled the blanket tighter. I don't want you to have problems because of me. I already have problems. Had them before you showed up. He set the rifle aside. Town was already suspicious of me. Mountain hermit former doctor who let a little girl die. Adding kidnapper to the list isn't going to make much difference. You didn't let her die? Tell that to her parents. Did you try to save her? Of course I tried. Tried everything I knew. But fever doesn't care how hard you try. His voice went flat. She died at dawn. Her mother screamed at me. Called me a butcher. Her father just stared like I'd murdered his child with my own hands. Maybe I did. Maybe if I'd been better, faster, smarter. Stop. Eliza stood cross to him. You can't carry that forever. It'll break you. Maybe it already did. No, broken people don't rescue girls from churches in thunderstorms. She sat beside him. You're hurt, but you're not broken. He looked at her. How would you know? Because broken people can't help others heal, and you're helping me. Something passed between them, an understanding maybe, a recognition of shared wounds. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For being here. For fighting back tonight. A pause. For making this cabin feel less empty. Her throat tightened. You're welcome. They sat in silence, watching the fire burn down to embers. Outside, the night grew quiet again. The right kind of quiet this time. When dawn finally came, Enoch made coffee and Eliza fried eggs, and neither of them mentioned how tired they were. I need to go into town today, Enoch said over breakfast. Eliza's stomach dropped. Why? Supplies, medicine. We're running low on flour and salt. He saw her expression. You don't have to come. Will you see people, talk to them? Can't avoid it. Then I'm coming with you. Eliza, if my father's spreading lies, I want people to see me, to see that I chose this. She set down her coffee. Besides, hiding up here makes it look like you are holding me prisoner. Fair point. He studied her. You sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. His lips twitched. You're getting stubborn. I learned from the best. They rode down the mountain together, Eliza sitting behind him, this time her arms around his waist. The trail was steep and narrow, and twice the horse stumbled, but Enoch's hands were steady on the reins. "Stay close when we get there," he said over his shoulder. "Don't let anyone corner you. If someone gets aggressive, you come find me. Understood?" "Yes." "I mean it, Eliza. Some of these men, they'll see you as fair game, property that changed hands." "I'm not property." "I know that. They don't." The words settled cold in her stomach. The town appeared around a bend, a scattering of buildings, muddy streets, people moving between shops. As they rode in, heads turned. Conversations stopped. A woman grabbed her daughter's arm and pulled her inside. Enoch dismounted outside the general store, helped Eliza down. She could feel eyes on her, assessing, judging, condemning. "Ignore them," Enoch murmured. "I'm trying." They walked into the store together. The shopkeeper, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, looked up and went pale. "Mr. Blackthorne, I heard you were back in the area." "I need supplies, Harris, that's all." Of course, of course." Harris's eyes darted to Eliza. "And you must be the young lady everyone's been talking about." "I'm Mrs. Blackthorne," Eliza said. Her voice only shook a little. Harris blinked. "I see. Well, welcome to town." He fumbled with his ledger. "What can I get for you?" Enoch rattled off a list: flour, salt, coffee, sugar, ammunition. Harris gathered the items with shaking hands, clearly desperate for them to leave. As Enoch paid, the door opened. A big man walked in. Gray beard, sheriff's badge, eyes like flint. "Blackthorne." "Sheriff Dalton. Heard you were back. Also heard some interesting stories." The sheriff's gaze shifted to Eliza. "This the girl Raymond Holloway says you abducted?" "This is my wife." "And she wasn't abducted." "That's not what Raymond says. Says you threatened him, assaulted him, stole his daughter." "He's lying," Eliza said. "All of it." The sheriff looked her up and down. "He says you're being coerced. That Blackthorne here is forcing you to say these things." "I'm not being forced to do anything. I married Dr. Blackthorne of my own free will." "Mighty convenient. Man rides into a wedding, claims you're already married to him, carries you off. That don't sound like free will to me." "What it sounds like doesn't matter," Enoch said. "The marriage is legal, filed with the county. Judge Winters signed the documents." "I've seen the documents. They're suspicious at best." "Then take it up with Judge Winters." The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Harris had backed into the corner, clutching his ledger like a shield. Eliza took a breath. "Sheriff, may I speak?" Dalton raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead." "My father tried to marry me off to Willard Holloway. Mr. Holloway paid him $300. I didn't want to marry Mr. Holloway. I was being forced." She kept her voice steady. "Dr. Blackthorne offered me a choice. I took it. If that's a crime, then arrest me too. Willard says you were promised to him. I'm not a wagon or a cow. I can't be promised. Your father had the right. My father had no rights where I was concerned. He sold me. Dr. Blackthorne gave me freedom." She met the sheriff's eyes. "If you want to call that a crime, then we have different definitions." Dalton studied her for a long moment. Then he looked at Enoch. "Raymond also says you came to his cabin last night. Attacked him on his own property." "He came to my cabin, drunk, threatened to burn it down with my wife inside." Enoch's voice was ice. "I removed him from the property. If he tells it differently, he's lying." "You got proof. I have his blood on my porch." "That ain't proof. That's evidence of assault." "Self-defense isn't assault." The sheriff's jaw worked. "I don't like you, Blackthorne. Never have. And this situation smells bad. Your opinion is noted. But," Dalton continued slowly, "I also know Raymond Holloway. Know he's a drunk and a bully. And I know he tried to marry off his daughter twice before." He looked at Eliza. "That true?" "Yes." "And those times you wanted to marry those men?" "No." "What happened when you refused?" She held up her left hand. Two of her fingers were crooked where they'd healed wrong. First time my father broke these. Second time he locked me in our cellar for 3 days without food. The sheriff's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. You file a complaint. Who would have listened? Fair point. He stepped back, nodded at Enoch. Take your supplies and go. But Blackthorn, I hear about any more nighttime visits, any more blood, any more trouble. I'm coming for you. Understood. Understood. And you. He looked at Eliza. You're really staying with him by choice. I am. Then I hope you know what you're doing. He left. The bell over the door chimed cheerfully behind him. Harris let out a breath he'd been holding. That could have gone worse. Could have gone better, Enoch muttered. He gathered the supplies. Come on, let's get out of here. They were almost to the door when it opened again. A man stepped through, tall, broad-shouldered, with a blacksmith's build and kind eyes. He saw Enoch and broke into a grin. Well, hell, heard you'd come to town. He clapped Enoch on the shoulder. Good to see you, brother. Luther. Relief flooded Enoch's face. Wasn't sure you'd want to be seen with me. Why wouldn't I? Luther looked at Eliza. And you must be the famous Mrs. Blackthorn. I'm Luther James. I'm the one who told this stubborn fool about your situation. Eliza's throat tightened. Thank you. For that. Nothing to thank me for. Just couldn't stand by and watch. He turned back to Enoch. Heard Raymond's been spreading stories, calling you a kidnapper. Let him talk. Some people are listening. I don't care. Well, I do. Luther crossed his arms. You saved this girl from a bad situation. People should know that. People will believe what they want to believe. Then we'll change their minds. Luther glanced at Eliza. You willing to tell your story publicly? She looked at Enoch. What would that mean? Mean standing up in front of the town, telling them what your father did, what Willard tried to do, why you left. Luther's expression was serious. Won't be easy. People will ask hard questions. Some won't believe you, but it might be the only way to stop Raymond's lies. Enoch shook his head. I'm not asking her to do that. I'll do it, Eliza said. Both men stared at her. Eliza, Enoch started. I'll do it. I'm tired of hiding, tired of being afraid. She straightened her shoulders. If people want the truth, I'll give it to them. Luther smiled. You picked a brave one, Enoch. I didn't pick her. She picked me. Even better. Luther headed for the door. Come to the church Sunday, after service. We'll gather folks and you can speak your piece. Luther. Enoch's voice held a warning. Trust me. This is the right move. He paused at the door. And Enoch, watch your back. Raymond's got friends. Mean ones. They rode back to this cabin in silence. Eliza could feel Enoch's tension in the set of his shoulders, the tightness of his grip on the reins. You're angry, she said finally. I'm worried. About me speaking. About putting you in front of a crowd of people who might not believe you, who might say terrible things. He guided the horse around a fallen branch. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. If I don't, people will always wonder, always whisper. You'll always be the man who stole Raymond Holloway's daughter. I don't care what they think. Well, I do. She tightened her arms around his waist. I care that people might blame you for saving me. I care that your name gets dragged through mud because of my father's lies. A pause. And I care about the next girl, the one whose father tries to sell her off. If I speak now, maybe someone will listen to her later. Enoch was quiet for a long moment. You're braver than I am. No, I'm just tired of being scared. The next 3 days passed in a strange, tense calm. Enoch taught her to shoot set-up targets behind the cabin and showed her how to hold the rifle, how to breathe, how to squeeze the trigger instead of pulling it. Again, he said after her 5th miss. She reloaded, aimed, fired. The can jumped off the fence post. Better. I still hate the noise. You'll get used to it. He handed her another bullet. Once more. This time she hit 3 in a row. Good. He took the rifle, checked the barrel. You're a natural. Or you're a good teacher. Both. He almost smiled. Mari came by on the second day, brought rabbit she'd trapped and news from the valley. The town's buzzing, she said. Half the people think you're a monster, Enoch. The other half think Eliza's a liar. What do you think? Eliza asked. Mari looked at her. I think you're strong, and I think you're going to need that strength on Sunday. Will you be there? My people don't go to their church, but I'll be nearby. She touched Eliza's shoulder. You don't face this alone. On Saturday night, Eliza couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through what she'd say, how she'd explain, what words could possibly make people understand. You're going to wear a hole in the blanket, Enoch said from his bedroll. Can't sleep. Noticed. He sat up. Want to talk? What if they don't believe me? Then they don't believe you. What if they call me a liar, a whore? Then I'll break their teeth. Despite everything, she almost laughed. That's not helpful. It's honest. He was quiet for a moment. Eliza, listen to me. You don't owe these people anything. Not your story, not your pain, not your truth. If you want to change your mind. I don't. Then know this, I'll be standing right beside you. Anyone comes at you, they go through me first. Enoch, I mean it. You're not alone in this. The words settled into her chest, warm and solid. Thank you, she whispered. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hell. He was right. Sunday morning dawned cold and gray. They dressed in their best clothes. Eliza in the one decent dress Mari had brought her, Enoch in clean trousers and a pressed shirt. He looked uncomfortable, kept tugging at his collar. Stop fidgeting, Eliza said. I hate towns, hate crowds. Makes 2 of us. They rode down together. The church was already full when they arrived, every pew packed, people standing in the back. They saw Enoch and Eliza, and the murmuring started immediately. Luther met them at the door. Big turnout. Word spreads fast. He looked at Eliza. You ready? No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's the spirit. He led them inside. Reverend Michaels stood at the pulpit looking deeply uncomfortable. Ah, Mr. Blackthorne. Mrs. Blackthorne. Mr. James here says you have something to say to the congregation. She does, Luther said. And you're all going to listen. Eliza walked to the front legs, shaking heart trying to climb out of her throat. Enoch stayed close, a solid presence at her back. She turned to face them. A sea of faces, some curious, some hostile, some carefully blank. Her father sat in the back, arms crossed, smirking. She found her mother in the 3rd row. Their eyes met. Her mother looked away. My name is Eliza May Blackthorne, she began. Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat, tried again. And I want to tell you the truth about what happened 2 weeks ago. We know what happened, someone called out. You ran off with a man you barely knew. I married a man who gave me a choice. She gripped the pulpit to steady herself. My father tried to marry me off 3 times. The first time I was 16. A cattle rancher from Silver Creek wanted a wife. I ran. My father found me and broke 2 of my fingers as punishment. Murmuring rippled through the crowd. The second time I was 17. A widower with 6 children. I refused to speak during the ceremony. The man changed his mind. My father locked me in our cellar for 3 days without food or water. She's lying, her father shouted from the back. Am I? Eliza turned to face him. Then why are 2 of my fingers crooked? Why did Doc Henderson treat me for dehydration 2 years ago and ask who'd locked me in the dark? Doc Henderson, sitting near the front, shifted uncomfortably, said nothing. The 3rd time, Eliza continued, he tried to marry me to Willard Holloway. Mr. Holloway paid my father $300. I was 18 years old, and I had no say in it." Her voice shook. "Dr. Blackthorne offered me a different choice. He offered me freedom. I took it." "You took his money, you mean?" Willard called out. "You and him planned this together. I'd never met him before the church." She looked at Willard. "And if I'd wanted money, I would have stayed with you. $300 is more than I'll ever see in my life." "Then why'd you do it?" "Because I was afraid. Because my father told me if I didn't marry you, he'd find someone worse. Because I've spent my whole life being told I'm worthless, that I should be grateful anyone wants me at all." Her voice rose. "And I'm done. I'm done being afraid. I'm done being treated like property. I'm done pretending this is normal." The church had gone silent. "Some of you are sitting there thinking I'm lying, thinking I'm making this up for attention." Eliza pulled up her sleeves, showed the faded bruises on her arms. "These are from my father's hands. Some of you saw him drag me to the church that day. Mrs. Patterson, you saw him grab me in the street. You looked away." Mrs. Patterson, a stout woman in the 5th row, flushed red. "Mr. Cooper, you delivered supplies to our house 3 months ago. You saw me with a black eye and asked no questions." Mr. Cooper studied his boots. "All of you knew. Some of you guessed. But none of you did anything." She looked around the church. "So don't you dare judge me for taking the one hand that reached out to help." "He's a murderer," someone said. "Let Sarah Winters die." "I tried to save her," Enoch said quietly, his first words since they'd entered. "I tried everything I knew. Sometimes trying isn't enough." "Tell that to her parents." "I did. Every day for 6 months. Then I left because looking at their grief was killing me." His voice was steady. "But that doesn't change what's happening here. Eliza is my wife, legally. She's here by choice. And if any of you have a problem with that, you can take it up with me outside." Silence. Then from the front row, an older woman stood. Eliza recognized her Mrs. Chen, who ran the boarding house. "I believe her," Mrs. Chen said. "I've seen Raymond Holloway drunk more times than I can count. Seen him mean, too. If his daughter says he hurt her, I believe it." Another woman stood. Then another. Within moments, 6 women were on their feet. "My father sold me too," one of them said quietly. "I was 14. Nobody stopped him." "Mine beat my mother until she couldn't walk straight," another added. We all pretended not to notice. The dam had broken. Women's voices filled the church telling stories they'd kept buried for years. Men shifted uncomfortably. Some looked ashamed. Others looked angry at being confronted at having their town's ugly truths dragged into the light. Reverend Michaels cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should—" "No." Mrs. Chen's voice cut through the noise. "We've been silent long enough. Let them speak." And they did. For an hour, maybe more, women stood and told their truths. By the time they finished, Eliza's face was wet with tears she didn't remember shedding. Luther stepped forward. "I think we've heard enough. The question is simple. Is Eliza Blackthorne here by force or by choice?" "By choice," Eliza said. "Then it's settled. Anyone wants to challenge that, they can take it to court." He looked at the sheriff who'd been standing in the back. "That fair Dalton?" The sheriff's face was unreadable. "Fair enough. But Blackthorne—" He fixed Enoch with a hard stare. "You step out of line once and I'll be on you like flies on carrion." "Noted." Raymond Holloway stood up. "This is bullshit. That's my—" "Shut your mouth, Raymond." Mrs. Chen's voice was sharp as glass. "We've all heard enough from you. Your daughter is free. If you've got a problem with that, take it up with God." Raymond's face went purple. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The church began to empty. Some people stopped to speak to Eliza, to offer support or apologies or just to touch her hand. Others left quickly, avoiding eye contact. When most of them had gone, Doc Henderson approached. He was old, silver-haired with tired eyes. Mrs. Blackthorne, I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For not asking more questions 2 years ago when your father brought you in half dead from dehydration. I knew something was wrong. I didn't push." He looked at Enoch. "Blackthorne, you did the right thing. For what it's worth." "It's worth something," Enoch said. Henderson nodded and left. Eliza sagged against the pulpit. Enoch was there immediately, steadying her. "I want to go home," she whispered. "Then let's go home." They walked out together into the gray afternoon. Mari was waiting by their horse, silent and solid. "You did well," she said simply. "I don't feel like I did well. I feel like I got torn apart." That's how healing starts. With the tearing. Mari handed her something, a small carved bird, smooth and perfect. "From my father. He says you have the heart of a hawk. Strong. Fierce." Eliza's fingers closed around the carving. "Thank you." They rode back up the mountain in silence. When they reached the cabin, Eliza climbed down, walked inside, and finally let herself fall apart. Enoch found her on the floor by the fire, sobbing into her hands. He knelt beside her, didn't touch her, just waited. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "I'm sorry, Don't apologize. You just fought a war. You're allowed to break down after." "I thought it would feel better. Telling the truth. But it just hurts." "It will for a while. Then it'll hurt less. Then one day you'll wake up and realize it doesn't hurt anymore." He held out his hand. "Come on, let's get you some tea." She took his hand. Let him pull her up. Let him guide her to a chair by the fire. He made tea. She drank it. The shaking slowly subsided. "Enoch." "Yeah. Thank you for standing beside me." "Always," he said, and meant it. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds. Light poured through the windows, warm and golden. And somewhere in the valley below, Raymond Holloway sat in a dark bar, drinking whiskey and plotting revenge. Because men like him never let go. And this war was far from over. The revenge came on a Tuesday, exactly 1 week after the church. Eliza was in the garden pulling weeds when she heard horses. Not one or two a group. 5, maybe 6. Her stomach dropped. "Enoch," she called. He was already moving, rifle in hand, eyes scanning the tree line. "Get inside, now!" She ran. He followed, locked the door, moved to the window. Through the gap in the curtains, Eliza saw them emerge from the trees: her father, Willard, 3 other men she didn't recognize, and Marshal Davis. "What's the marshal doing with them?" she whispered. "Nothing good." Enoch's jaw was tight. "Stay away from the windows." Raymond dismounted first, swaggering like he owned the place. "Blackthorne, come on out. We need to have a conversation." Enoch opened the door, stepped onto the porch, kept the rifle lowered, but ready. "You're trespassing again, Raymond. Didn't learn your lesson last time." "I learned plenty. Learned you're real good at manipulating people, making my daughter lie for you in front of the whole town." Her father spat into the dirt. "But the marshal here, he's got some questions. Legal questions." Marshal Davis dismounted, his face carefully neutral. "Mr. Blackthorne, I need to see the marriage documents. Original copies. They're on file in Silver Creek. I need to see them here, now." "Why?" "Because Mr. Holloway has raised concerns about their legitimacy. Judge Winters is currently out of town, unreachable. Until I can verify those documents with him personally, I'm placing you under investigation." Enoch's grip on the rifle tightened. "Investigation for what? Fraud, coercion, possible kidnapping." Davis's voice was steady, but his eyes said he didn't like this any more than Enoch did. "I need you to come into town, answer some questions. And if I refuse, then I'll arrest you for obstruction. This is ridiculous, Eliza said, stepping onto the porch. Marshall, you heard me speak. You heard those women. I heard a lot of things, Mrs. Blackthorne, but I also have a job to do. Davis looked genuinely apologetic. I'm sorry, but until I can verify those documents with Judge Winters himself, this situation remains questionable. When will Winters be back? 2 weeks, maybe 3. So you want me to sit in a cell for 3 weeks while you wait? I want you to come answer questions. If everything checks out, you'll be free to go. And if it doesn't? Davis didn't answer. One of the men with her father, tall, mean-looking with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. Quit dancing around it, Marshall. The man's a criminal. Arrest him. I'm following procedure, Cole. Procedure. Cole spat the word like it tasted bad. Man steals another man's property, and you want to follow procedure. I'm not property, Eliza said. Cole looked at her like she was a dog that had learned to talk. You're whatever your father says you are, girl. Enoch moved fast. One moment he was on the porch, the next he was nose to nose with Cole. Say that again? You heard me? Enoch, don't. Davis started, but Enoch was already swinging. His fist caught Cole in the jaw, sent him stumbling backward. Cole recovered, came at him with a roar. They crashed together, went down hard on the muddy ground. Stop it, Davis shouted. Both of you stop. But the other men were moving now, surrounding them, shouting encouragement. Raymond was laughing. Willard looked hungry. Eliza ran back inside, grabbed Enoch's pistol from the table, ran back out, fired one shot into the air. Everyone froze. Next one goes into somebody, she said. Her hands were steady. Her voice was not. Back away from him. Now. Cole, bleeding from his mouth, glared at her. You won't shoot. She lowered the pistol, aimed at his leg. Try me. Eliza. Enoch's voice rough but calm. Put the gun down. Not until they leave. Put it down. That's an order from your husband. She wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped her. She lowered the pistol. Enoch stood slowly, wiped blood from his split lip. Marshall, you want me to answer questions? Fine, I'll come into town. But my wife stays here on my property, protected by my rifle. Anyone touches her, anyone comes near this cabin while I'm gone, and I'll kill them. Are we clear? Crystal, Davis said. But Blackthorne, you come in voluntarily, you answer truthfully, and you don't cause any more trouble. Otherwise this gets a lot worse. Understood. No. Eliza grabbed his arm. Enoch, you can't trust them. My father? I know. He turned to her, his voice low so only she could hear. But if I don't go, they'll arrest me anyway. And then you'll be here alone with them. At least this way I'm cooperating. Gives Davis a reason to keep me safe. What if they don't? Then you ride to Luther's. You tell him what happened. He'll know what to do. He pressed something into her hand, a key. That opens the locked cabinet in the corner. Inside is money, ammunition, and documents. If I'm not back in 3 days, you take it all and you run. I'm not leaving you. You will if I tell you to. His eyes were fierce. Promise me, Eliza. Promise you'll survive. She wanted to refuse, wanted to fight, but the look on his face said this wasn't negotiable. I promise, she whispered. Good. He kissed her forehead, quick, impersonal, like a brother might. 3 days. Wait. 3 days. Then he walked to his horse, mounted, and rode down the mountain with the marshal and her father's men surrounding him like wolves. Eliza watched until they disappeared into the trees. Then she went inside, locked every door and window, loaded the rifle, and sat down to wait. The first day passed in agony. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow looked like a man. She barely slept, barely ate, just sat by the window with the rifle across her knees watching the trees. On the second day, Mari came. She appeared without warning, as always, carrying a bundle wrapped in cloth. He's still alive, she said without preamble. Luther sent word. They're holding him in the town jail, asking questions. What kind of questions? About the marriage. About you. About whether he forced you. Mari set down the bundle food Eliza realized. Bread, dried meat berries. My father says your father is drinking in the saloon every night, bragging about how he's going to see Enoch hanged. Eliza's hands went cold. Hanged. He's pushing for charges. Says Enoch abducted you, assaulted him, disrupted a legal wedding ceremony. Mari's face was grim. He's got 3 witnesses willing to testify, all men he drinks with. They're lying. Of course they're lying, but lies work if enough people believe them. Mari knelt beside Eliza's chair. You need to go into town. Remind people of what you said in that church. Make them see the truth. Enoch told me to stay here. Enoch isn't here, and if you don't do something, he might not come back. The words hit like a physical blow. Eliza stood paced to the fire and back. What if it makes things worse? What if I go down there and they arrest me too? Then we'll both fight. Mari stood. But doing nothing isn't an option. Men like your father, they win when good people stay silent. Eliza thought about Enoch, about his steady hands, his quiet strength, the way he'd given her freedom without asking for anything in return. Thought about losing him because she was too afraid to fight. I'll go, she said. Tomorrow. No, now. Mari crossed to the door. My horse is outside. We ride together. Mari. Now, Eliza, before your courage runs out. She was right. Eliza grabbed her coat, checked the pistol tucked in her belt, and followed Mari outside. They rode hard, reaching town just as the sun was setting. The streets were busy with people finishing their day's work. Heads turned as they passed. Whispers followed them like smoke. Mari led her straight to the jail, a small stone building near the edge of town. Sheriff Dalton sat outside, whittling something from a piece of wood. Mrs. Blackthorne, he said, not looking up. Figured you'd show up eventually. I want to see my husband. Can't allow that. He's under investigation. For crimes he didn't commit. That's for a judge to decide. Then let me speak to Marshal Davis. Davis rode to Silver Creek. Won't be back for 2 days. Eliza's heart sank. Why? To verify those marriage documents. See if they're legitimate or if your husband forged them. Dalton finally looked up. Between you and me, I hope they're real. But hoping doesn't change the law. Can I at least see him? Just for a moment? Dalton considered. Then sighed, stood, jerked his head toward the door. 5 minutes. No touching. I'll be watching. He led her inside. The jail was small, dim, smelling of unwashed bodies and despair. 2 cells, 1 empty one holding Enoch. He stood when he saw her. His face was bruised, one eye swollen shut. Dried blood crusted his lip. What happened? Eliza demanded. Had a disagreement with Cole and his friends last night. They came to ask me more questions. Got physical when I didn't give the answers they wanted. His voice was calm, but his eyes were furious. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're bleeding. I've had worse. He gripped the bars. You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. Neither is leaving you here alone. Eliza. No, I'm not running. I'm not hiding. She moved closer to the bars, kept her voice low. Mari says my father's trying to get you hanged, says he has witnesses. I know. They questioned me about it this morning. What did you say? The truth. That your father tried to force you into marriage. That I offered you a choice. That everything I did was legal. He paused. They don't believe me. Then I'll make them believe. She looked at Dalton. Sheriff, I want to give a statement. An official one. On record. Already have your statement from the church. That was testimony. This is different. I want to swear it before a notary. Make it legal. Her voice was steady. Can you arrange that? Dalton scratched his beard. Might be able to. Doc Henderson's a notary, if he's willing. He will be. She turned back to Enoch. I'm going to fix this. Eliza, listen to me. If this goes bad, If they decide to charge me, you need to leave. Go to Luther's. He'll help you start somewhere new. I'm not leaving you. You have to. If I hang, your father will try to reclaim you, force you into another marriage. His voice cracked. I can't protect you if I'm dead. Then don't die. She reached through the bars, took his hand. Dalton shifted, but didn't stop her. Don't you dare die, Enoch Blackthorne, because if you do, I'll spend the rest of my life making my father wish he'd never been born. Despite everything, Enoch almost smiled. That's my girl. Time's up, Dalton said. Out, Mrs. Blackthorne. She squeezed Enoch's hand once more, then let go. Walked out of the jail with her head high and her heart breaking. Mari was waiting outside with Luther. He took one look at Eliza's face and swore. How bad? He asked. Bad. My father has witnesses. The marshals in Silver Creek checking documents, and someone beat Enoch last night. Luther's expression went dark. Cole and his boys. I heard they were drinking at the saloon talking about teaching the doctor a lesson. He looked at Mari. Your father have any of that sleeping medicine, the strong kind? Yes, why? Because I'm going to put it in Cole's next whiskey and have a private conversation with him about witness tampering. He turned to Eliza. You get that statement to Doc Henderson. Get it notarized. Make it ironclad. I'll handle the rest. What are you going to do? Things I probably shouldn't, but sometimes the law needs a little help. He gripped her shoulder. Don't worry. We're not letting Enoch swing for the crime of being decent. They split up. Luther disappeared into the growing darkness. Mari led Eliza to Doc Henderson's office. The old doctor listened to her story, took her statement in careful longhand, notarized it with his official seal. This will help, he said. But Mrs. Blackthorne, you need to understand your father has influence. He's owed favors. Some people in this town would rather believe him than admit they've been turning a blind eye to abuse for years. Then I'll change their minds. How? By making them see what silence costs. She left Henderson's office and walked straight to the boarding house. Mrs. Chen answered the door, surprise flickering across her face. Mrs. Blackthorne, what are you doing here? I need your help, and I need the help of every woman who spoke in that church last week. For what? To save my husband's life. Mrs. Chen studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Come inside. I'll make tea and send word. Within an hour they came. Mrs. Patterson, Mrs. Miller, Sarah Thompson, who was barely 18 and had scars on her arms from her father's belt. Mary Rodriguez, whose husband drank and beat her until she'd finally run away. A dozen women, maybe more, crowding into Mrs. Chen's parlor with their secrets and their scars and their stories. Eliza stood before them. My father wants Enoch dead because he saved me. And if we let that happen, we're telling every man in this town that they can do whatever they want to women without consequences. What do you want us to do? Sarah asked. I want you to stand with me, tomorrow, when they question Enoch again. I want every woman in this town who's ever been hurt, ever been silenced, ever been told she didn't matter. I want them there, in the street, making noise, making sure everyone sees that we won't be quiet anymore. They'll call us troublemakers, Mrs. Patterson said. Let them. I'd rather be a troublemaker than a coward. Silence. Then Mrs. Chen stood. I'm in. Me too, Sarah said. One by one they stood. One by one they pledged to fight. By the time Eliza left the boarding house, the plan was set. Tomorrow morning they'd gather. They'd make sure justice wasn't done in shadows and silence. Mari walked her back to the edge of town where their horses waited. Your husband would be proud. He'd tell me I'm being reckless. Same thing. Mari swung into her saddle. You staying in town tonight? No, I promised him 3 days. Tomorrow's only day 2. Then let's get you home. You need rest for tomorrow's fight. They rode back up the mountain in darkness. When they reached the cabin, Mari helped her check every lock, every window, made sure the rifles were loaded and within reach. "I'll stay," Mari offered. "Keep watch." "You don't have to." "I know, but I'm staying anyway." She settled into a chair by the fire. "Sleep. I'll wake you if anything moves." Eliza wanted to argue, but exhaustion was dragging at her bones. She climbed into bed, still wearing her clothes, the pistol under her pillow, and fell into uneasy sleep. She dreamed of Enoch hanging from a rope while her father laughed. Woke gasping, sweat-soaked, to find Mari beside the bed. Easy, just a dream. It felt real. The worst ones always do. Mari handed her water. "Dawn's coming soon. You should eat something." They ate in silence, dried meat and bread washed down with bitter coffee. Then they rode back down to town, arriving just as the sun broke over the mountains. The street in front of the jail was already filling with people, women mostly, standing quiet and determined, their faces set. Mrs. Chen stood at the front, arms crossed. When she saw Eliza, she nodded. "We're ready." More were arriving. Sarah Mary, Mrs. Patterson. Others Eliza didn't know. Within an hour, there were maybe 40 women standing in that street, silent, waiting. Sheriff Dalton came out, took one look at them, and swore. "What the hell is this, witnesses?" Mrs. Chen said. "We're here to witness justice being done. This isn't a public trial. Then make it one, because we're not leaving until Enoch Blackthorne walks out of that jail a free man." "You can't." "Can't what? Stand in a public street? Pretty sure that's legal, Sheriff." Dalton looked at Eliza. "This you're doing?" "Yes." "You're making a lot of enemies." "I'm making a lot of noise. There's a difference." He shook his head, muttered something under his breath, and went back inside. An hour passed. Then 2. The sun climbed higher. More people gathered, men now too curious about the crowd. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked angry. Raymond Holloway appeared around midday, drunk already, Willard and Cole flanking him. He saw the women, and his face went purple. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. "Justice," Mrs. Chen replied. "Justice. You stupid bitches don't know the meaning." "Careful, Raymond." Luther's voice cut through the crowd. He emerged from between 2 buildings, walking slow and easy. "You finish that sentence, you and I are going to have a problem." "You threatening me, James?" "Just giving you friendly advice. These women, they're here peacefully. You start trouble, I finish it." He smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. "And Cole, I know what you and your boys did to Enoch last night. Do it again, and I'll make sure everyone knows you beat a man in a locked cell." Cole's scarred face went pale. "You can't prove—" "Can't I?" Luther pulled something from his pocket, a bloody cloth. "Found this in the alley behind the saloon. Got your initials on it, Cole, and Enoch's blood. Funny how evidence just turns up sometimes." "You son of a bitch." "That's enough." Marshal Davis's voice rang out. He'd returned his horse, lathered and exhausted. He dismounted, pushed through the crowd, looked at the women blocking the jail entrance. "What's going on here?" "These women are waiting for you to do your job," Eliza said. "Did you verify the documents?" Davis pulled papers from his saddlebag. "I did. Judge Winters confirmed he signed the marriage license. It's legitimate, legal, and binding." He looked at Raymond. "Which means your daughter is married to Enoch Blackthorne, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it." The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Others argued. Raymond lunged at Davis, but Luther caught him, held him back. "No," her father snarled. "No, that can't be right. He forced her." "He didn't force me," Eliza said. Her voice carried across the crowd. "He saved me. From you. From a life of being sold and beaten and told I was worthless." She walked toward her father, stopping just out of reach. "You want to blame someone, blame yourself. You're the one who made me so desperate I'd marry a stranger rather than stay in your house one more day." Her father stared at her. For a moment, Just a moment, she saw something like pain in his face. Then it hardened back to rage. "You're dead to me," he said. "Good. That makes us even." Davis stepped between them. "Blackthorne is being released. All charges dropped. But Raymond, if you come near him or his wife again, I'll arrest you for harassment. Are we clear?" "Crystal." Her father spat at Eliza's feet, then shoved through the crowd and disappeared. The jail door opened. Enoch stepped out, blinking in the bright sunlight. His face was a mess of bruises, his clothes torn, but he was alive. Eliza ran to him. He caught her, held her tight, his face buried in her hair. "You're a damn fool," he muttered. "I learned from the best." He pulled back, looked at the crowd of women still standing there. "You did this." "We did this," Mrs. Chen corrected. "Your wife just organized it." Enoch looked at Eliza with something like awe. "You're incredible." "I'm stubborn. There's a difference." "Same thing." He kissed her forehead, then her cheek, then hesitating her lips. Soft. Brief. A promise more than a claim. When he pulled back, her face was burning, but she was smiling. "Let's go home," she said. "Best idea I've heard all week." They mounted their horse. Luther appeared with supplies, food, medicine, ammunition. "Figured you'd need these, on the house." "Luther, don't argue, just take them." He gripped Enoch's hand. "Watch your back. Raymond's not done. Men like him never are." "I know." They rode out of town together, the afternoon sun warm on their faces. Behind them, the crowd dispersed. The women returned to their lives. But something had changed. Something had shifted. They'd learned they had power, and that changed everything. When they reached the cabin, Enoch dismounted carefully, wincing with each movement. Eliza helped him inside, eased him into a chair by the fire. "Let me see the damage," she said. He pulled off his shirt. His torso was a landscape of bruises, purple, black, yellow. Some were new, some were days old. "Christ, Enoch. I've had worse." "That doesn't make it better." She fetched watercloth salve, started cleaning the wounds with gentle hands. "What did they do to you?" Asked questions. When I didn't give the answers they wanted, they got creative. He hissed as she touched a particularly bad bruise. "Cole's got a mean right hook." Luther threatened him, said he'd expose what they did. "Good. Maybe next time they'll think twice." He caught her hand. "You shouldn't have come to town. Shouldn't have organized that protest. You would have done it for me." "That's different." "Why?" "Because you're a man and I'm a woman." She met his eyes. "We're partners, remember. That means we protect each other." He stared at her, then laughed a rough, painful sound. "How did I get so lucky?" "You interrupted a wedding in a thunderstorm. Luck had nothing to do with it." "Fair point." He pulled her closer, rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you. For fighting for me. Always," she whispered. They sat like that for a long time, just breathing, just being. Outside, the sun set behind the mountains, the cabin filled with shadows and firelight. Eventually, Enoch pulled back. "We need to talk about what comes next." "I know. My father. We'll try again. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but he will try." He stood paced to the window. "We can't keep living like this, waiting for him to strike. What do you suggest?" "We leave. Pack up, head west. Start somewhere new, where no one knows us." The idea should have felt like freedom. Instead, it felt like defeat. "No," Eliza said. "Eliza?" "No. We worked too hard for this. I stood in that church and told my truth. Those women stood with me. If we run now, we're telling them it didn't matter." She joined him at the window. "Besides, I'm tired of running. I ran my whole life. I'm done." "Then what do you want to do?" "I want to stay, build a life here, show my father that he didn't break me." She took his hand. "And I want to help others. Women like me. Girls who need somewhere safe. What do you mean? Your clinic. You said you used to practice medicine. What if we opened it again? Made it a place where people could come for help, not just medical help, safety, truth. Enoch was quiet for a long moment. That's dangerous. Your father would see it as a threat. Good. Let him. Her grip tightened. We can't change the past, but we can change the future. One person at a time. He looked at her, really looked. Saw the strength there, the determination. The woman she was becoming. All right, he said. We'll do it. Together. Together, she echoed. And in the fading light surrounded by mountains and possibility, they began to plan. Because sometimes healing starts with standing your ground. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to run. The clinic took shape slowly, like trust, one careful piece at a time. Enoch cleared out the shed behind the cabin, swept away years of dust and cobwebs. Luther brought lumber. Mari's father sent medicine bundles wrapped in deer hide. Mrs. Chen donated blankets and dishes. Even Doc Henderson contributed old medical texts, instruments he no longer used, bottles of laudanum and morphine. You're doing something good here, Henderson said when he delivered the supplies. Something this town needs, even if it doesn't know it yet. We're trying, Eliza replied. Trying's all any of us can do. Within 2 weeks, the shed had become something else entirely. Clean walls, a proper examination table Luther had built from oak shelves stocked with bandages and medicines, a small stove for heating water. There was even a cot in the corner for patients who needed to stay overnight. Enoch stood in the doorway surveying their work. Looks almost professional. It looks like hope, Eliza corrected. Same thing maybe. He turned to her. You ready for this? Once word spreads, people will come. Some with bodies that need healing. Some with wounds we can't fix with medicine. I know. She'd thought about this constantly over the past 2 weeks. But we have to try. Then we try. He kissed her temple, a gesture that had become natural between them. Together. The first patient arrived 3 days later. Eliza was hanging laundry when she heard the horse. A woman dismounted slowly, carefully, like every movement hurt. She was young, maybe 25, with a split lip and a black eye that had started to turn green. I'm looking for Dr. Blackthorne, she said. Her voice was quiet, defeated. I'm his wife. What do you need? The woman hesitated, then pulled back her sleeve, revealing burns on her forearm. Circular. Deliberate. Cigar burns. Eliza's stomach clenched. Come inside. We'll help you. The woman, her name was Rebecca, sat on the examination table while Enoch treated her burns. His hands were gentle, his questions careful. Who did this to you? My husband. How long has this been happening? 2 years, since we got married. Rebecca's voice was hollow. He drinks, gets mean, says I deserve it for being stupid. You don't deserve it, Eliza said. She was sitting beside Rebecca, holding her other hand. No one deserves this. He says if I leave, he'll find me, kill me. Do you believe him? Yes. Rebecca looked at Eliza with empty eyes. But I'm so tired of being afraid. Enoch finished bandaging her arm. You can stay here, as long as you need. I can't. He'll come looking. Let him come. Enoch's voice was steel. This is my property. He sets foot here, he answers to me. You don't understand. Tom's mean, really mean. He's hurt people before. I'm not afraid of him. Rebecca looked between them, this strange couple who'd opened their home to her, who spoke about safety like it was possible. Why are you helping me? Because someone helped me, Eliza said. And now it's my turn to help someone else. Rebecca stayed 3 days. Slept in the clinic, ate meals with them, helped Eliza in the garden. On the 3rd morning, her husband came. Eliza was in the cabin making bread when she heard shouting. She ran to the window, saw a big man on horseback, red-faced and raging. "Rebecca, get your ass out here right now!" Enoch emerged from the clinic, rifle in hand. "You're trespassing. Turn around and leave." "That's my wife in there." "That's a woman who doesn't want to see you." Tom dismounted, weaving slightly. Drunk already, and it wasn't even noon. "You got no right." "I've got every right. This is my land. She's my patient, and you're not welcome here." "Patient?" Tom laughed, ugly and mean. "What's wrong with her? She tell you she fell down the stairs. That's her favorite lie. She told me her husband burns her with cigars, beats her, threatens to kill her." Enoch's voice was cold. "She told me the truth. The truth is, she's clumsy and mouthy and needs a firm hand. The truth is, you're a coward who hurts women because you can." Enoch raised the rifle slightly. "Leave, now, while you still can. Or what, you'll shoot me." Tom took a step forward. "Go ahead, pull that trigger. See what happens when you murder a man in cold blood. Self-defense isn't murder, and you're threatening me on my property." Enoch didn't move. "Test me if you want, but I promise you'll regret it." They stared at each other. The moment stretched taut as a wire. Then Luther appeared from the trees, also armed. "Problem here, Enoch?" "Just escorting Mr. Curtis off the property." "Good, because I'd hate to have to explain to the sheriff why there's a body on your land." Luther smiled, but his eyes were flat. "Tom, I know your daddy. Good man. Be real disappointed to hear his son turned out to be the kind of coward who beats women half his size." Tom's face went purple. "You don't know nothing." "I know plenty. Whole town knows. They just don't talk about it because your daddy has money." Luther chambered around. "But money don't stop bullets. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to get back on that horse. You're going to ride home. And you're going to tell anyone who asks that Rebecca left you. Moved east to live with family. Got it? She's my wife." "Not anymore. Consider yourselves divorced by mutual agreement. You come after her, you'll answer to me, Enoch, and every woman in town who's sick of men like you." Luther took a step closer. "And Tom, we won't be as nice next time." Tom looked at the rifles at their faces, at the clinic door where Rebecca was probably watching. Then he spat, remounted, and rode away cursing. Luther didn't lower his weapon until Tom disappeared around the bend. "He'll be back." "I know," Enoch said, "but not today." "You sure you want to do this? Make enemies of every violent husband in the territory?" "I'm sure." Luther nodded slowly. "Then I'm with you. So's most of the town, probably. The good parts, anyway." He glanced at the clinic. "How's Rebecca?" "Healing. Physically, at least. The rest takes longer." Luther touched his hat. "I'll spread word. Let folks know this place is safe. But Enoch, you need to be ready. Men like Tom don't like losing control. They'll push back." "Let them try." After Luther left, Enoch found Eliza in the cabin. She was shaking, gripping the counter so hard her knuckles were white. "Hey!" He crossed to her. "You all right?" "No." "Yes, I don't know." She turned to him. "That was terrifying. What if he'd shot you? What if—" "He didn't. But he could have. And then what, I'd be alone again, and Tom would take Rebecca, and everything we're building would—" "Eliza, stop." He pulled her close. "Look at me. I'm fine. Rebecca's fine. We're all fine. This time. What about next time? Or the time after that?" Her voice cracked. "How many violent men are we going to face before one of them wins?" "I don't know. But what's the alternative? Turn people away. Let them suffer because we're afraid." "No, but I'm terrified I'm going to lose you." "You won't." He tilted her chin up. "I'm not going anywhere, I promise." "You can't promise that." "Watch me." He kissed her, not gentle this time, but fierce, claiming. When he pulled back, his eyes were intense. "I love you. I don't know when it happened. Probably somewhere between the church and the jail. But I love you, Eliza. And I'm not leaving you, not for anything. She stared at him. You love me? Yes. Even though we barely know each other. I know you fought for me when I was in jail. I know you stood in front of this cabin with a pistol ready to shoot anyone who threatened our home. I know you're braver than anyone I've ever met. He touched her face. That's enough. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too. I think I have since you carried me out of that church. Then we're even. He kissed her again, softer this time. And whatever comes next, we face it together. Rebecca stayed another week. In that time, 2 more women arrived. One with a broken arm her husband had twisted until it snapped. Another pregnant and desperate, running from a man who'd threatened to kill her and the baby both. The clinic filled. The cabin filled. Eliza and Enoch gave up their bed, slept on the floor by the fire. Mari brought food. Mrs. Chen brought clothes. Luther kept watch at night, rifle across his knees, making sure no angry husbands came calling. This is getting out of hand, Dalton said when he rode up on the 10th day. He surveyed the scene, women everywhere, children playing in the yard, laundry hanging from every available surface. Blackthorn, you can't just harbor every runaway wife in the territory. Watch me. I'm serious. You're causing problems. Men are angry, saying you're stealing their property. Their property? Eliza's voice was sharp. These are human beings, Sheriff, not cattle. I know that, but the law. The law says a woman can leave an abusive marriage. That's what they're doing. Some of these women are still legally married. Their husbands have rights. Rights to what? To beat them, to burn them, to threaten their lives. Enoch stepped forward. You want to enforce those rights? Sheriff, you'll have to go through me. Dalton sighed, rubbed his face. I'm trying to keep the peace. There is no peace when women are dying in their own homes. I know that. Dalton's voice dropped. My sister lived with a man who beat her for 15 years. She finally left him last spring. Came to live with me. He looked at the women gathered in the yard. She's been healing ever since, so I get it. I do. But you're making yourself a target. I know. You ready for that? Ready for what happens when these men band together and come after you? Are you going to help them? No, but I can't protect you either, not if they come in force. Then we'll protect ourselves. Dalton looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Fair enough, but don't say I didn't warn you. He left. The women watched him go silent and tense. Is he right? Rebecca asked. Will our husbands come for us? Maybe, Enoch said. Probably, but they'll have to get through all of us first. How many of us are there? Eliza counted. 7 women, 3 children. Enoch, me, Luther, when he's here, Mari sometimes. She looked around at their faces. Not enough to win a fight, but enough to make one hell of a stand. We should leave, one of the other women said, Anna with the broken arm. Go somewhere else, somewhere safer. Where? Rebecca challenged. Where can we go that men like our husbands won't find us? Where can we go that we'll be believed, protected, safe? She looked at Eliza. This is the first place I've felt safe in 2 years. I'm not leaving, not without a fight. Me neither, Anna said quietly. One by one, the others agreed. They would stay. They would fight if they had to. Because this was the first place any of them had found that felt like home. That night, Enoch taught them all to shoot. Set up targets behind the clinic, showed them how to load aim fire. Some of them were naturals. Others couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. But they all tried. Shooting's like anything else, he told them. 90% is not flinching. The rest is practice. What if I can't do it? Anna asked. Her arm was still in a sling. What if my husband comes and I freeze? Then someone else shoots him. That's why we're all learning, so no one has to stand alone. They practiced until their hands were sore and their ears rang. Then they went inside, made dinner, told stories. Slowly, laughter began to fill the cabin. Hesitant at first, then stronger. These women who'd spent years in silence were finding their voices again. Eliza watched them and felt something fierce bloom in her chest. This was why they'd built the clinic, not just to heal bodies, but to heal souls. To give people a place where they could breathe without fear. "You look proud," Enoch murmured beside her. "I am. Look at them. Look at what we've built." "We've built it, but you started it." He squeezed her hand. "You're changing lives, Eliza." "We're changing lives." Same thing. 2 days later, the men came. It was just after dawn. Eliza was making coffee when she heard horses. A lot of horses. She ran to the window, saw them emerging from the trees. 10, maybe 12 men. Tom Curtis at the front, Rebecca's husband. Behind him, faces Eliza recognized from town. Angry men, armed men. "Enoch," she called. He was already moving, grabbing rifles, checking ammunition. "Get everyone to the clinic. Lock the doors. Don't come out unless I call for you." "I'm not hiding." "You're protecting the others. That's not hiding. That's strategy." He kissed her hard. "Go. Now." She ran. Gathered the women, the children, herded them all to the clinic. Rebecca was crying. Anna looked terrified. But they moved quickly, quietly got inside, and barred the door. Through the window, Eliza watched Enoch step onto the porch. Luther appeared from the barn, rifle ready. Mari materialized from the trees, bow in hand. Tom dismounted. The other men followed. They fanned out, surrounding the cabin. "We want our wives, Blackthorn." "They're not your wives anymore." "The hell they're not. Law says." "Law says a woman can choose to leave." "They chose. You lost." Enoch's voice was calm. Too calm. "Go home, while you still can." "Not without Rebecca." "She's not here." "Don't lie to me. I can see smoke from 2 stoves. I know you're hiding them." Tom took a step forward. "Hand them over, or we'll take them." "Try it." Tom pulled his gun. The other men followed suit. 11 guns against 3 rifles and a bow. "Last chance," Tom said. "Same to you." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then, everything exploded. Tom fired first. The shot went wide, splintering the porch railing. Enoch returned fire not at Tom, but at the ground near his horse's feet. The animal reared, screaming. Tom went down hard. The other men scattered, taking cover behind trees, rocks, the barn. Bullets flew, wood splintered. Someone screamed. In the clinic, Eliza grabbed a rifle. "Stay down," she told the others. Then she opened the door just wide enough to aim. She'd never shot at a person before, never thought she could. But when she saw a man running toward the cabin with a torch in his hand, ready to burn everything they'd built, her finger found the trigger. The shot caught him in the leg. He went down, howling. The torch rolled away, sputtering in the dirt. "Good shot," Rebecca said behind her. She had a rifle too. "Teach me." Eliza showed her. They fired together, not to kill, but to stop, to protect, to defend what was theirs. The fight lasted maybe 10 minutes, felt like hours. When the smoke cleared, 3 men were wounded. One dead not by Enoch's hand, or Eliza's, but by Mari's arrow. He'd been charging Luther with a knife. Tom Curtis was on the ground, bleeding from a shoulder wound, cursing and crying. The other men were retreating, dragging their wounded with them. "Next time we come with more," Tom screamed. "Next time we'll burn this place to the ground. There won't be a next time." Sheriff Dalton's voice rang out. He emerged from the trees on horseback, 6 deputies behind him. "Because next time you'll all be arrested for attempted murder." They shot first. "I watched the whole thing. You fired first. Blackthorn had defended his property." Dalton dismounted, surveyed the damage. "Tom Curtis, you're under arrest for assault. The rest of you get the hell out of here before I arrest you too." The men scattered. Tom was dragged away, still screaming threats. The deputies cleaned up the mess, hauled away the dead man, tended to the wounded, took statements. When they finally left, silence settled over the property like snow. Enoch sat on the porch steps, head in his hands. Luther sat beside him, quietly reloading his rifle. Mari checked her arrows, calm as ever. Eliza came out of the clinic. Her hands were shaking. Her ears still rang. But she was alive. They were all alive. "Is it over?" Rebecca asked from the doorway. "For now," Enoch said. "Will they come back?" "Maybe. Probably not. Most men are brave when they're in a group. Less so when they're facing jail time." He looked at the women gathered in the doorway. "But if they do, we'll be ready." "We should leave," Anna said. "Find somewhere else. We're causing you too much trouble." "You're not causing trouble. Men like your husbands are." Eliza crossed to them. "This is your home now. If you want to stay, you stay. If you want to go, we'll help you get somewhere safe. But you don't leave because you're scared. That's what they want." "What do you want?" Rebecca asked. "I want you to have choices. Real choices. Whatever you choose, we'll support you." The women looked at each other. Silent conversations passed between them. "I'm staying," Rebecca said finally. "I've run enough." "Me too," Anna said. One by one they chose. Most stayed. A few left not out of fear, but because they had family elsewhere, places they could start over. Enoch and Luther helped them pack, gave them money, arranged safe passage. The ones who stayed became something else, not just patients or refugees, family. They rebuilt what the fight had damaged. Patched bullet holes, replaced broken windows, planted a new garden. They established rules, routines. Everyone worked. Everyone contributed. The clinic became more than a shelter. It became a community. Word spread. More women came. Some stayed days. Some stayed months. The cabin expanded. Luther built additions. Extra rooms, a larger kitchen. Mari's tribe sent supplies. Mrs. Chen organized donations from the town women. Within 3 months, the place had transformed. No longer just a cabin and a clinic. Now it was something bigger. Something that mattered. One evening, as autumn colors painted the mountains, Eliza and Enoch sat on the porch watching the sun set. Inside, women laughed over dinner. Children played. Life hummed with possibility. "We did it," Eliza said. "We built something real." "We're still building." Enoch pulled her close. "Every day we're building. I'm proud of us." "So am I." They sat in comfortable silence. Around them, the mountain breathed, the world turned, and for the first time in both their lives, they felt like they belonged somewhere. Enoch. "Yeah. What do we call this place? The clinic's not big enough anymore. It's more than that." He thought about it. "What about the Blackthorn house?" "Too formal." "The mountain refuge?" "Too vague." She looked at him. "What about something that says what we really do here, who we really are? Which is, people who survived, people who heal, people who fight for each other." She smiled. "The healing house, where we don't fix what's broken, we honor what survived." Enoch tested the words, nodded slowly. "I like it." "Me too." The next day, Luther carved a sign. Mari painted it. They hung it above the clinic door, where everyone could see the healing house. Medicine. Shelter. Truth. We don't fix what's broken, we honor what survived. People came to read it. Some nodded, some cried, some turned away uncomfortable with such naked honesty. But the women who needed it most understood. They came up the mountain one by one, carrying their wounds and their stories. And one by one, they began to heal. Not because Eliza and Enoch fixed them, but because they finally had a place where they could fix themselves. And that made all the difference. 3 years passed like water through willing hands, inevitable transforming healing. The healing house grew. What had started as a cabin and a clinic now sprawled across the mountainside, 4 buildings connected by covered walkways, a proper barn gardens that fed 20 people, a schoolroom where Mari taught the children to read and write in both English and Shoshone. Eliza stood at the kitchen window on a cold November morning, watching steam rise from her coffee. Outside, Rebecca was teaching Anna's daughter how to milk the goat. Both women were laughing. Rebecca had gained weight color in her cheeks. Anna's arm had healed straight and strong. They'd both filed for divorce, legal divorces, with Doc Henderson and Mrs. Chen testifying to the abuse. The judge had granted both without contest. Neither woman had left. This was home now. "You're thinking too loud," Enoch said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I can hear it from the other room. I'm thinking about how far we've come. We've come pretty far." He rested his chin on her shoulder. 3 years ago, you were standing in a church in a yellow dress, terrified. Now look at you. Look at us. She turned in his arms. How many women have we helped? 37. 38 if you count the one who arrived last night. The new arrival, a girl, really maybe 17, had ridden up after dark, beaten so badly she could barely walk. Enoch had spent 4 hours treating her wounds while Eliza held her hand and promised her she was safe. The girl had finally fallen asleep in the clinic, Mari keeping watch beside her. 38 lives, Eliza said. That's not nothing. It's everything. He kissed her temple. You saved them, you know. I just patched them up. You gave them hope. We gave them hope. Together. She pulled back. Speaking of together, I have news. Good news or bad news? Depends how you look at it. She took his hand, placed it on her stomach. I'm pregnant. Enoch went very still. You're sure? I'm sure. About 6 weeks, I think. I wasn't certain until yesterday when I couldn't keep breakfast down for the 3rd day in a row. She searched his face. Are you happy? Happy? He laughed, a sound of pure joy. Eliza, I'm terrified and thrilled, and I don't know what to do with myself. He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. We're going to have a baby. We're going to have a baby, she repeated. The words felt surreal, impossible, perfect. Does anyone else know? Just Mari. She figured it out before I did. Apparently I've been craving pine nuts like crazy, and that's a telltale sign. We should tell the others. They'll want to know. Not yet. Let's keep it ours for a little while longer. She looked up at him. Just you and me and this secret. All right. Our secret. He kissed her soft and deep and full of promise. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. I love you, Eliza Blackthorne. I love you too, Enoch Blackthorne, even when you snore. I don't snore. You absolutely snore. They were still laughing when Luther knocked on the door. He looked grim. We have a problem. Enoch's smile faded. What kind of problem? The kind with a badge and a warrant. Marshall's here, says he needs to talk to you, both of you. They followed Luther outside. Marshal Davis was dismounting 2 deputies with him. His face was professionally neutral, which meant trouble. Mr. and Mrs. Blackthorne, sorry to disturb you so early. What's this about? Enoch asked. I'm serving you with a cease and desist order. You're to stop operating this facility immediately. Davis handed him papers. Also, there's a formal complaint. Raymond Holloway is suing you for alienation of affection and loss of consortium. Eliza's blood went cold. My father is what? He's claiming you unlawfully separated him from his daughter, that Dr. Blackthorne coerced you into marriage and has been keeping you here against your will. He's asking for damages and for you to be returned to his custody. That's insane. I'm a grown woman. Who was married under questionable circumstances. The judge in Silver Creek is willing to hear the case. Davis looked genuinely sorry. I know it's garbage. Everyone knows it's garbage. But your father's hired a lawyer from Denver. Good one, too. They're arguing that the original marriage license was obtained through fraud. It wasn't fraud. Judge Winters signed it. Judge Winters died last month. Heart attack. There's no one left to verify the circumstances. Davis shifted uncomfortably. Look, I think you two are doing good work here. But the law's the law. You need to shut down operations until this gets sorted out. And the women staying here? Eliza demanded. Where do they go? That's not my concern. It should be. Her voice shook with rage. These women have nowhere else. They came here because it was the only place that would take them. If we shut down, they're back on the streets or back with the men who hurt them. I understand that, but I have my orders. Your orders are wrong. Maybe, but they're still orders. Davis looked at Enoch. You've got 1 week. After that, if you're still operating, I'll have to arrest you, both of you. He left. The deputies followed. The papers fluttered in Enoch's hands. What do we do? Rebecca had come out, Anna beside her. They'd heard everything. We fight, Eliza said. We go to court. We tell the truth. The truth didn't help last time, Anna said quietly. Not really. Men like your father, they have money, lawyers, influence. What do we have? Each other. Eliza looked at the women gathered on the porch. And our stories, and the fact that we're right. Being right doesn't always win. Then we make it win. That afternoon they called a meeting. Every woman who'd ever stayed at the healing house was invited. Some had moved on, remarried, started businesses, found family. But they came when they heard. Came from neighboring towns, from ranches, from the valley. 38 women plus their children crowding into the main house. Eliza stood before them. My father is trying to shut us down. He's claiming I'm here against my will, that Enoch kidnapped me, that everything we've built is based on a lie. She held up the papers. In 1 week, the marshal will arrest us if we don't close. In 3 months, there's a trial. If we lose, the healing house is gone forever. Silence, heavy and suffocating. So here's what I'm asking, Eliza continued. I need you to testify. I need you to stand in front of a judge and tell your stories. Tell them why you came here, what this place means, why it matters. She looked around the room. I know it's asking a lot. I know some of your husbands will be there. I know it'll be hard, but it's the only way. I'll do it, Rebecca said immediately. I'll tell them everything. Me too, Anna said. One by one they volunteered. Not all of them, some were too afraid, too fragile. But most. 27 women willing to stand up and be counted. We'll need more than testimony, Luther said. He'd been standing in the back, arms crossed. We'll need a good lawyer, someone who can argue the legal side. I can't afford a good lawyer, Enoch said. I've got maybe $300 saved. Then we'll fundraise. Mrs. Chen stood. Every woman in this town who benefits from what you do, and that's most of them whether they admit it or not, we'll ask them to contribute. We'll hold a dance, a bake sale, whatever it takes. I'll talk to the tribal council, Mari said. My father's people have benefited from Enoch's medicine. They'll help. And I'll talk to the other blacksmiths, the carpenters, the ranchers. Luther's jaw was set. Men who have daughters, sisters, wives. Men who know this place matters. Within 2 days, they'd raised $800. Within a week, they'd found a lawyer, a woman from Denver, named Catherine Walsh, who'd made her career defending women's rights. She was expensive, but she was good. And when she heard Eliza's story, she agreed to take the case. We can win this, Walsh said in their first meeting. She was tall, sharp-eyed, with gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. But it won't be easy. Your father's lawyer is going to argue that you were manipulated, that Dr. Blackthorne took advantage of a vulnerable young woman. We need to prove you had agency, that you chose this life. I did choose it. I believe you. But we need to make a judge believe it. And judges are men. Men who think women need protecting from their own decisions. Walsh tapped the papers. We'll need witnesses. Medical records showing the abuse. Testimony from Doc Henderson about treating your injuries. Affidavits from the women you've helped. We have all that. Good. Then we fight. Walsh smiled cold and fierce. I don't lose cases like this, and I'm not starting now. The week passed. They didn't shut down. When Marshal Davis came on the 8th day to arrest them, he found the entire property surrounded by women and children. 38 women, 62 children, all standing silent and defiant. You can arrest us, Mrs. Chen said, but you'll have to arrest all of us, and I don't think your jail's big enough. Davis looked at the crowd, at the children, at the women holding hands forming a human chain around the buildings. This is obstruction, he said, but his heart wasn't in it. This is solidarity, Mrs. Chen corrected. And we're not moving until you promise these people get a fair trial. I can't promise that. Then we stay. The standoff lasted 3 hours. Finally, Davis rode back to town, promising to speak with the judge. The women stayed another 2 hours just to be safe. Then slowly they dispersed. But the message was clear. The healing house wasn't just a place anymore. It was a movement. The trial began on a cold January morning. The courthouse was packed, every seat filled, people standing in the back. Eliza sat beside Enoch at the defendant's table, Walsh on his other side. Across the aisle, her father sat with his lawyer, a slick man named Harrington, who wore an expensive suit and looked at Eliza like she was a piece of property being disputed. The judge, Judge Morrison, a gray-haired man with stern eyes, banged his gavel. We're here to hear the case of Raymond Holloway versus Enoch and Eliza Blackthorne. Mr. Harrington, present your case. Harrington stood. For the next hour, he painted a picture of Enoch as a predator who'd manipulated a vulnerable young woman. He called witnesses men who claimed they'd seen Enoch threaten Raymond. Town gossips who said Eliza had seemed confused, coerced. Even Willard Holloway testified, claiming Eliza had been promised to him that she'd seemed willing until Enoch interfered. This man, Harrington said, pointing at Enoch, used his position as a doctor to prey on a frightened girl. He fabricated a marriage license, assaulted her father, and has been keeping her prisoner in the mountains for 3 years. This isn't love. This is kidnapping. When he sat down, the courtroom buzzed with whispers. Walsh stood. She was calm, controlled, every inch the professional. Your Honor, the prosecution would have you believe that Eliza Blackthorne is a victim. But the only victim in this courtroom is truth. Because the truth is that Eliza Holloway was being sold into marriage by her abusive father. The truth is that Dr. Blackthorne offered her a choice. And the truth is that she chose freedom. She called her first witness, Doc Henderson. He testified about treating Eliza's injuries over the years: broken fingers, dehydration, bruises. He brought medical records, photographs. In my professional opinion, Henderson said, Eliza Holloway was being systematically abused by her father. When she left with Dr. Blackthorne, she was escaping a life-threatening situation. Next, Mrs. Chen testified about seeing Raymond drag Eliza through town about the bruises she'd tried to hide. Then Mari, who described finding Eliza that first week, terrified, wounded, but determined to survive. Then the women began to testify. Rebecca told her story, how her husband had burned her, beaten her, threatened to kill her, how the healing house had saved her life. If not for Eliza and Enoch, Rebecca said, her voice strong, I'd be dead, or I'd wish I was. They gave me hope. They gave me a future. Anna testified, then Sarah, then Mary. One by one, 27 women stood and told their truths. By the time they finished, half the courtroom was in tears. Finally, Walsh called Eliza to the stand. Mrs. Blackthorne, tell the court what happened 3 years ago, in your own words. Eliza took a breath, looked at her father, at Enoch, at the women sitting in the gallery. My father tried to sell me 3 times, she began. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. The first time I ran, he broke my fingers. The second time I refused to speak. He locked me in the cellar. The third time, I stood in that church and I wanted to die. because I thought that was my only choice." She told them everything. The yellow dress, the rain, Enoch stepping through that door like God had sent him. He didn't kidnap me. He saved me. He offered me the first real choice I'd ever had: stay and suffer or leave and be free. I chose freedom. She looked at the judge. And I've been choosing it every day since. Not because I'm being forced. Because I'm finally allowed to choose. Harrington cross-examined her, tried to rattle her, suggested she'd been manipulated. But Eliza didn't break. "I know my own mind," she said. "And I chose this life. I chose this man. I chose to help other women the way I was helped. If that's a crime, then arrest me. But don't you dare tell me I don't know what I want." The courtroom erupted in applause. Judge Morrison banged his gavel, called for order. The trial lasted 3 days. On the final day, both lawyers made their closing arguments. Harrington argued law property rights, paternal authority, the sanctity of traditional marriage. Walsh argued humanity, the right to safety, to choice, to freedom from violence. When they finished, Judge Morrison called a recess. The jury, 12 men, no women allowed, deliberated for 6 hours. Eliza sat in the hallway, Enoch's hand in hers, praying to a God she wasn't sure believed in her. "Whatever happens," Enoch said quietly, "we'll face it together." "Together," she echoed. The jury returned. Everyone filed back into the courtroom. Eliza's heart hammered against her ribs. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" Judge Morrison asked. "We have, Your Honor." The foreman stood, an older man, a rancher, Eliza vaguely recognized. "On the charge of fraud regarding the marriage license, we find the defendants not guilty. On the charge of kidnapping, we find the defendant, Enoch Blackthorne, not guilty. On the charge of alienation of affection, we find the defendants not guilty on all counts." The courtroom exploded. Women screamed, cheered, cried. Eliza collapsed into Enoch's arms, sobbing with relief. Judge Morrison banged his gavel repeatedly. When order was finally restored, he looked at Raymond Holloway. "Mr. Holloway, your case has been dismissed. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order. You are not to approach your daughter, her husband, or their property. If you violate this order, you will be arrested. Do you understand?" Raymond's face was purple with rage. "Do you understand?" "Yes," Raymond spat. "Then we're adjourned." Morrison stood. "And Mr. and Mrs. Blackthorne, keep doing what you're doing. This world needs more people like you." They left the courthouse surrounded by cheering women. Luther lifted Eliza off her feet, spinning her around. Mari embraced Enoch. Mrs. Chen was crying openly. "We won," Rebecca kept saying. "We actually won." That night they celebrated at the healing house. Food, music, laughter. Children ran wild. Women danced. For the first time in years, everyone felt safe enough to be loud, to be joyful, to simply be. Eliza stood on the porch, watching them, one hand on her still flat stomach. "Thinking about the baby?" Enoch asked, appearing beside her. "Thinking about what kind of world we're bringing them into?" "A better one than we were born into. Because of what we're doing here." He pulled her close. "Our kid's going to grow up knowing that people can change things, that standing up matters, that safety is a right, not a privilege. That's a lot of pressure for someone who isn't even born yet. They'll handle it. They're ours." He kissed her forehead. "Should we tell everyone about the baby?" "Not yet. Let them have tonight. Tomorrow we'll tell them we have one more person to protect." They stood together watching their people celebrate. 3 years ago, Eliza had been a frightened girl in a yellow dress. Now she was a woman who'd changed the world, one rescued heart at a time. The months passed. Eliza's belly grew. The healing house thrived. Women kept coming. Word had spread throughout the territory about the place in the mountains where you could be safe, be heard, be believed. Raymond Holloway tried to violate the restraining order twice. Both times, Marshal Davis arrested him. The second time, the judge sentenced him to 6 months in jail. He died there of liver failure 3 weeks into his sentence. They buried him on a gray Tuesday. Eliza didn't attend. "Do you feel bad?" Enoch asked that night. About not going. No, he was my father by blood, but he was never my family. She touched her belly where their daughter kicked and rolled. This is my family. You. This baby. The women here. That's all I need. That's all any of us need. Their daughter was born on a warm June morning. The labor was long and difficult, but Eliza was strong. When it was over, when Enoch placed the squalling, perfect baby in her arms, Eliza felt something click into place. A completion she hadn't known she'd been missing. What should we name her? Enoch asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. Eliza looked at her daughter's face, red and wrinkled and beautiful. Thought about all the women who'd helped her get here. All the hands that had held hers. All the voices that had said, "You're not alone." Hope, she said. Her name is Hope. Hope Blackthorn. Enoch tested, smiled. Perfect. Hope grew strong and wild. By the time she was 2, she was running through the healing house like she owned it, charming everyone she met. The women doted on her. Mari taught her to track animals. Rebecca taught her to shoot. Anna taught her to read. She's going to be trouble, Luther said. Watching Hope climb a tree she had no business climbing. Good, Eliza replied. The world needs more troublemakers. When Hope was 3, another girl arrived at the healing house. She was young, maybe 16, trembling and terrified, clutching a letter. Are you Eliza Blackthorn? The girl asked. I am. I heard about you, about this place, about how you help people. The girl held out the letter. I need help. Eliza took the letter, read it. It was from a woman in Montana, someone she'd never met. But the woman had heard the story about the girl in the yellow dress, about the mountain man who'd saved her, about the healing house that took in the broken and helped them heal. Please, the girl whispered. I have nowhere else to go. Eliza looked at her, at the bruises poorly hidden by her sleeves, at the fear in her eyes, at the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would believe her. She thought about the church, the rain, the moment Enoch had walked through that door and changed everything. Come inside, Eliza said, taking the girl's hand. You're safe now. I believe you. The girl started to cry. Eliza held her while she sobbed, while the fear and relief poured out in equal measure. Behind them, Hope watched with solemn eyes, learning, understanding, seeing how her mother fought for people who couldn't fight for themselves. One day, Eliza knew Hope would do the same, would carry on this work, would make sure no girl ever felt as alone as Eliza once had. That evening, after the new girl was settled, after dinner was cleaned up, and Hope was asleep, Eliza and Enoch sat on the porch. The mountains were purple in the fading light. Smoke rose from the chimneys. Inside, women's voices drifted through the windows, talking, laughing, healing. Do you ever think about that day? Eliza asked. The church, every day. Do you regret it? Any of it? Not for a second. He pulled her close. You? No. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Who I'm supposed to be. She looked at the sign Luther had carved, still hanging above the clinic door. We built something that matters. We did, and it's not finished. He nodded toward the mountains. There are more women out there, more girls who need to know they're not alone. Then we'll keep going, for as long as it takes. For as long as it takes, he agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge. Around them, the healing house breathed with life and purpose. Women slept safe in their beds. Children dreamed without fear. And somewhere in the darkness, another girl was riding toward them, carrying her wounds and her hope. The door would be open when she arrived. The fire would be warm. And Eliza would be there to say the words every survivor needed to hear. You're safe now. I believe you. You're not alone. Because that's what survivors did. They survived, and then they reached back to pull others through. That was the true power of the healing house. Not that it fixed what was broken, but that it honored what survived. And in that honoring, it helped people find their way back to themselves. 3 years had passed since a frightened girl in a yellow dress had walked out of a church into a storm and found freedom. Now that girl was a woman who'd built a sanctuary, who'd fought for the right to choose her own life, who'd changed the world one rescued heart at a time. And she wasn't done yet. Not even close. The mountain still stood. The door still opened. And the work of healing, the sacred necessary work of saying, "You matter, you're worth saving, you deserve to be free," that work would continue. For as long as there were women who needed to hear it, Eliza Blackthorne would be there to say it. And that was enough. That was everything. That was the life she'd chosen and the legacy she'd leave. A life of courage. A life of choice. A life that proved that even the most broken things could heal if given safety time and someone willing to believe. The mountains watched over them, ancient and knowing. The stars wheeled overhead, constant and true. And in the healing house, hearts continued to mend one brave moment at a time. This was the story of Eliza and Enoch. This was the story of every woman who'd walked through their door. This was the story of choosing survival over surrender, hope over despair, community over isolation. This was the story of healing, and it would echo through these mountains for generations to come, a testament to what happens when someone finally says, "Don't fear me, I'm here to help. You're safe now. You're home."